the author of Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products, and the blog post Want to Hook Your Users, Drive Them Crazy, Nir Eyal, has defended his work, claiming that digital technologies are no worse than any other technologies or media, including novels and TV. Many a critic would beg to differ. And indeed, interestingly, his latest book, published in 2019, Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life, actually seeks to empower us to rise up against the attention economy. In this video, I want to outline why the attention economy and the practices that have grown up to support it should matter to us. More specifically, I want to outline the dangers this economy poses to us and why it is imperative that we think critically about how we engage with digital technologies, and why it is imperative that we continue to do so throughout our lives and in all contexts, personal and professional. The time to start this process is now. To start with the headline danger, all roads lead to this one. The attention economy encourages a form of behavioural addiction with huge ramifications or consequences for our personal and professional lives. This behavioural addiction can lower our productivity, lower our creativity, weaken our social skills and connection with others, and above all, have hugely detrimental effects on our well-being. Before I go any further, I should outline what I mean by behavioural addiction. Here, we need a quick lesson in human evolution. Being a member of a community and successfully interacting with that community has long been important to the human species. There is a sense of safety and security deriving from identifying with a group. Humans are gregarious beings. We have a cultural and linguistic marker of this in the phrase, "birds of a feather flock together," which seems to have classical and biblical origins. I'll come back to this point elsewhere. For now, I want to focus on another aspect of this evolutionary journey, that we feel a social obligation when a member seeks to communicate with us, and that we have come to thrive on receiving successful feedback from others in our community, especially when that feedback comes unexpectedly. When a community member reaches out to us, we have become hardwired to feel social obligation to respond. Each time we receive unexpected feedback, there is a release of the chemical dopamine, which plays the role of sending the right messages through the brain to make us feel pleasure. A study commonly cited that gives evidence of how we respond to rewards is the so-called pecking pigeon experiment, led in the 1970s by Michael Zeiler, a psychology professor in the US. His study found that pigeons released higher levels of dopamine on receiving unexpected food rewards. The same, we are to understand, goes for humans. So much for evolution. The worry is how this knowledge of evolution and how our brains have come to function has been harnessed to fuel the attention economy and in turn enslave us to technologies for the benefit of others and often to the detriment of ourselves. As ethical technology activist Tristan Harris outlines, this evolutionary quirk has informed the development and deployment of features on platforms to pull in and keep our attention, often through giving us a skewed sense of social approbation or belonging, of being accepted by and at one with our online community. The unscheduled notification that someone has liked our Facebook post, the unscheduled notification that we've acquired more YouTube subscribers, the unscheduled notification we have received a WhatsApp message. On receiving messages, we have come to feel a sense of urgency to respond because of the evolutionary consequences of not doing so. Death round the communal fire, we could say. Receiving feedback on social media meanwhile delivers what psychologists call variable rewards. The knowledge of the pleasurable feeling we get on receiving these makes us compulsively check our phones. In other words, just like fast food and casinos, digital technologies have been engineered to change our behaviour and make us addicted to them. If we spend our time responding to messages as soon as they come through on our phones or electronic devices and checking for feedback on online forums, we undermine our ability to engage in and complete other tasks, especially those that require sustained concentration. If we spend our time constantly responding to messages and checking for feedback, we don't, in the words of psychologist Adam Altair, court moments of boredom, which are in fact when we get our, I quote, most creative, new, inventive ideas. If we spend our time responding to messages and checking for feedback online, we can quickly neglect to carve out the time for meaningful, high-quality social interaction, an aspect of our existence which our evolution has come to mark as highly important. What we end up with, as Sherry Turkle has outlined in her book Reclaiming Conversation, is connection and communication, which does not really fulfill our very human need for conversation, our deep engagement with another person. Above all, spending our time responding to messages and checking for feedback online can have devastating effects on well-being, especially amongst teenagers. A study published in The Atlantic in 2017 of the at once astonishing and worrying impact of smartphones on what has been dubbed the IGEN Generation stated the following: "It's not an exaggeration to describe IGEN as being on the brink of the worst mental health crisis in decades. Much of this deterioration can be traced to their phones." Insightful analysis on this has been given by commentator Cal Newport. As he remarks, "This makes sense. These teenagers have lost the ability to process and make sense of their emotions, or to reflect on who they are and what really matters, or to build strong relationships, or even to just allow their brains time to power down their critical social circuits, which are not meant to be used constantly, and to redirect that energy to other important cognitive housekeeping tasks. We shouldn't be surprised that these absences lead to malfunctions." As Cal Newport, Tristan Harris and Adam Altair have all underlined, the most worrying aspect of all of this is that we have ended up in this crisis, a form of digital disorder, without our explicit knowledge. We have, in a sense, sleepwalked into dangerous territory. The good news is that the Technology for Good movement, which is gathering pace around the world, is being accompanied by a complementary movement, which is pushing for more ethical technology design and more mindful use of technologies. Cal Newport, Tristan Harris and Adam Altair are just three of the key exponents, and, as I nodded to at the beginning, have recently been joined by Nir Eyal. Paralleling the popular work of Marie Kondo, the Japanese organizing consultant, there is the veritable rise of a movement called digital minimalism. But that is the topic of another video. For now, we can safely conclude that the notification sounds app I referenced in my previous video is doing us a disservice in amplifying a detrimental practice that pulses through the arteries of many tech products. Once we are aware of this, we can set ourselves up for a return to greater autonomy driven by healthy and considered digital practices.